Hello and welcome to the news at 7, where we get to the heart of the day's stories and communities across Scotland. Tonight, a landmark ruling from the Supreme Court as it says the legal definition of a woman is based on biological sex. It follows a row between the campaign group For Women Scotland and the Scottish Government, who argued that the definition should include trans women. Also tonight, a mother who lost her son and sister-in-law to suicide joins a national campaign encouraging people to speak up. A top climate scientist tells us the world has made no progress since COP26 in Glasgow, but he says Scotland can still lead the way. We'll also have all your sport. Sheila, what have you got for us tonight?
Well, Louise, we'll bring you a flavour of what Rangers and their fans can expect in Bilbao.
And later we meet the Edinburgh brothers rowing 9,000 miles across the Pacific. Hello, I'm Louise Cowie. Welcome to the News at 7. Today there was a major ruling in a long-running and controversial debate. The UK Supreme Court ruled that the legal definition of a woman is based on biological sex. The judges said the concept of sex is binary. It follows a row between the Scottish Government and the campaign group For Women Scotland around the interpretation of the UK Equality Act. The Scottish Government had argued the definition should include trans women with a gender recognition certificate. But For Women Scotland argued it should only apply to people born female. In a moment, we'll hear from people on both sides of the debate. But first, here's our political correspondent, Phil Sim, to tell us what happened today.
The Supreme Court has issued a landmark judgment about how a woman should be defined in law. It's the culmination of a long-running legal dispute between the campaign group For Women Scotland and the Scottish Government. And it's all about how the Equality Act, which provides anti-discrimination protections across Scotland, England and Wales, should work. The question is how a woman is defined in that law. For Women Scotland said it should be on the basis of biology, which is set in the womb before you're even born. The Scottish Government had contended that you can change sex through the gender recognition process and that would entitle you to the protections of that acquired sex. This matters because of the way that the Equality Act provides protections for single-sex services and spaces. This ruling means that those spaces can continue to exclude trans people even if they have a gender recognition certificate. But the judges are also clear that there are still protections for trans people in the law. They're protected against discrimination and harassment under the Equality Act. So the case has now moved out of the legal arena and back into the political one because there are still questions for both the UK and Scottish governments about their wider policies, but they have both said that they accept the ruling of the court.
Well, there's been lots of reaction to that story. Marion Calder is the director of For Women Scotland.
I'm overjoyed, ecstatic, and it's been fabulous to actually hear. I could hear and feel the energy of the women behind me. We genuinely had no idea which direction this was going to go. We should never have been in this place. Biology is a reality. It does not matter. It should be. We should be able to actually say we have the right to our own services and facilities.
The judges were clear today that there are still protections for trans people against discrimination and harassment in the Equality Act, but trans groups say it undermines the way the gender recognition process has worked.
I'm pretty gutted by this ruling. I think it undoes a really important principle that was put in place 20 years ago that determined that if you obtain a gender recognition certificate, then you are, for almost all purposes in law, considered to be your acquired gender.
Our political correspondent Lindsay Bewes is in Holyrood tonight. Lindsay, what impact could today's ruling have?
Well, Louise, this ruling provides final legal clarity on exactly who is entitled to sex-based protections in equalities law. Now, it is set against the backdrop of what has been years of controversial debate here at Holyrood and beyond on gender identity issues more broadly. Now, those have included the government's proposals for a system of self-ID on gender recognition, the controversy surrounding the transgender prisoner Isla Bryson, initially housed in a women's prison, and more recently an employment tribunal involving an NHS Fife nurse who objected to sharing a changing room with a transgender doctor. Now, the ruling doesn't provide all of the answers when it comes to balancing the rights of women and the rights of trans people in day-to-day life. It doesn't settle that NHS Fife dispute. It doesn't impose a blanket ban on trans women accessing women's spaces. There are still judgments to be made by those who provide single-sex services, and many businesses and organisations will be digesting this judgment and weighing up what it will mean in practice. When ministers come back here to Holyrood after Easter recess, there will be questions, I think, for them on providing greater clarity on how the law should operate in practice. I think they will also face questions on their decision to fight this case. The government will also, I think, hope now they can draw somewhat of a line under all of this. They will want to try to extract themselves from what has been a politically damaging and highly controversial issue, but with two groups wanting to protect their rights and ensure that their rights are enforced, I think that could be easier said than done.
OK, Lindsay Bewes in Holyrood, thanks for that. You're watching tonight's News at 7, still to come. What's the longest trip you've taken with your family? We catch up with the Edinburgh brothers who are rowing and rowing their way across the Pacific.
We've had one or two brief spats in the last couple of days, all relating to sleep.
And after a changeable few days of weather, I'll be taking a look at the forecast as we move towards the Easter weekend.
Now to an issue that affects hundreds of families in Scotland every year. Shona Stalin from Glasgow lost her son Dylan to suicide in 2016. 3 weeks later, her sister-in-law Vanessa also died by suicide. She's now joined a campaign encouraging people to have conversations about suicide. I started by asking her to tell me a little bit about Dylan.
My son Dylan was 18 when he took his own life. He had been struggling with body dysmorphic disorder for a number of years. I guess he had the normal anxieties that teenagers have until they suddenly became more than that. So we'd known that he was struggling for quite some time, but he had some help and support with that. So we didn't imagine at any point that he was thinking about suicide. But with hindsight and what I know now, perhaps we should have asked him if he was thinking about suicide.
And after Dylan, there was another loss in the family, wasn't there?
Yes, just 5 weeks later, we lost my sister-in-law, Vanessa, to suicide. In the weeks following Dylan's death, it's hard to explain how you muddle through those weeks. It's such a complex grief when you've lost someone to suicide, and we were all sort of muddling through as best as we could. Vanessa had some of her own issues that she was struggling with, but again, no one thought to ask her if she was having thoughts of suicide, despite the fact that it's really, there's a much more increased risk of suicide with families who have been bereaved. So perhaps if either of them if someone had asked them, the outcome might have been different for either of them.
And that's the key message of a campaign that you're involved in, isn't it? Tell us about the campaign and who's taking part.
I don't think there's been anything like this in Scotland before. It is, it's not scripted, there are no actors. It features real people with lived experience and their voices of very personal experiences. It revolves around one question: what if a conversation about suicide could save a life? And what we're trying to do is encourage people who are struggling to ask for help, seek help. I know it can be difficult, but there are people who are willing to listen. And maybe more importantly, what we're trying to do is encourage people who will be supporting other people or who can see people are struggling to ask the question, are you having thoughts of suicide? That might seem really scary. People worry that they're going to say the wrong thing. They worry that they might make it worse, that they're not an expert, that I don't know what to do if they say yes. But research shows us that it has the opposite effect. Asking someone directly could change and pause what they're thinking. It could give that person the first opportunity to speak about how they're feeling and seek help. You don't have to be an expert, you just have to be a compassionate listener. So really what we're trying to do is encourage everyone, anyone, to start a conversation about suicide and to know how to go about starting that conversation.
And if you've been affected by anything in that interview, support is available on the BBC Action Line website or by calling the number on your screen now. Let's get a roundup of the stories making the BBC News app in Scotland now. The charity Asthma and Lung Scotland has called for flu vaccines to be reinstated for 50 to 64-year-olds after the worst flu death season in over 4 decades. The United States consulate in Edinburgh could be closed due to cuts imposed by Elon Musk in an attempt to reduce spending in the American government. And an Aberdeen engineering firm has gone into liquidation after nearly 50 years in business, with a loss of 48 jobs. Its owners blamed increased international competition and falling orders. Well, for more information on all these stories, you can scan the QR code on the screen now. It will take you to the BBC Scotland News app. Huntington's disease is a life-changing condition for anyone that's diagnosed with it. It slowly damages the brain, affecting a person's ability to walk, talk, eat and drink. There's no cure or treatment. And as a genetic disease, it often runs in a family. Brian Watt from Murray was in his early 60s when he was diagnosed with the condition, just like his father and sister.
I really did think at the time that it was going to be okay, I was going to be clean, but unfortunately it wasn't. Heavy going. Having the news and having to accept the news, not only for myself but for my family. I have a son, 3 daughters. I knew they were then all at 50% risk. That is the risk that the HD gene carries. It's almost an evil blend of motor neuron disease, dementia and Parkinson's. It affects you cognitive-wise, physically-wise, emotionally-wise.
Well, a new study has shown that one part of Scotland has amongst the highest rates of the disease in the world. Globally, it's thought just under 3 people in every 100,000 have it, but in northern Scotland, it's more than 5 times that rate. Our science correspondent Laura Goodwin sat down with the professor who led the study.
We think partly the families in the northeast of Scotland have tended to stay here over generations. So if there is more of a condition here, then it will kind of stay here.
How does your study differ in terms of identifying people who haven't been tested for the gene?
Huntington's is a condition that runs in families, passes from parent to child, and every parent who has the condition, there's a 50-50 or 1 in 2 chance that their child will inherit it from them. That means that when you've got one person, maybe with 2 or 3 brothers and sisters, each of them has the same chance of inheriting it. What we've known before was the number of people that have come to a clinic to get diagnosed with Huntington's, had a genetic test. What we hadn't done was known how many of their brothers and sisters were with the gene, but who hadn't come to the clinic yet. We showed that for every one person that has affected by Huntington's with movements, with the other problems, who's had a test, there's 2.2 people in the family who have the gene. Now, it doesn't mean they have symptoms at this point, but we know that the gene's there.
Still to come, we have weather with Joy, and one of the world's top climate scientists tells us not enough progress has been made since COP26 in Glasgow. But first, it's sports time with Sheila.
Hello there. It's a huge week for Rangers as they prepare for their Europa League quarter-final showdown against Athletic Club in Bilbao. Where after last week's goalless draw, Barry Ferguson's side are looking for another big performance to book their place in the semi-finals. And in the last few minutes, he's been speaking to us. Paul Barnes is there.
Yes. Thumbs up. Yes, welcome to the Basque Country. Welcome to the Basque Country, the latest stop on Rangers' Europa League travels. And some positive news on the injury front for Rangers, because Václav Černý, Bailey Rice and Ridvan Yilmaz are all available to play tomorrow night. And of course, midfielder Mohamed Diamande and defender John Suter will return from suspension. Now, Athletic Bilbao are favourites to progress and reach the last four of the competition, but only a fool would write off Rangers, even if their domestic form has been extremely patchy, and a lot of people will be tipping the Ibrox side to make the semi-finals of the competition. Their interim head coach Barry Ferguson has been speaking to the media in the last hour or so. Let's hear what he had to say.
Look, you want to play, there's no doubt, but the days are well over for me, and the next best thing is being a manager. I never thought this opportunity would have happened. As I said, I'm loving every single minute of it. It's a bit different from what I'm used to, but I'm really enjoying my time, and I'm looking forward to it. I said to my players, you've got to look forward to these occasions, you've got to embrace these occasions, and that's certainly something that I'm hopeful they'll do, and I'm going to do the same.
Well, Athletic Bilbao were pretty disappointed to leave Glasgow last week without a win, but they'll be backed here by a formidable home support at the San Mamés ground. Around 50,000 Athletic Bilbao fans will be here tomorrow night to cheer on their side. And it's a very unique club, Athletic Bilbao. Viewers back home might know about their very unique selection policy when it comes to their players, and really it is quite amazing that they are currently sitting fourth in Spain's La Liga and have progressed to the last 8 of the competition. They've also never been relegated from Spain's top flight. So a fascinating club, and one man who I spoke to earlier that explained that in a bit more detail was their director of football, Miguel González.
We only play with Basque players. What do you mean Basque player? They have to be born in Basque country, or they have to be formed in Basque country. People who maybe they are born away, but they come to Basque country when they are young because of family or parents' job like this. So we can sing this kind of players. So this is our philosophy. It's the same philosophy since, I don't know, 125 years ago. We are really proud about it because it's like we feel like it's our club, it's our family. It's much more than just a football club. In Athletic Club, we invest a lot since they are really young. We have more than 180 partnership clubs around all the Basque country.
The Scottish national team has done quite well recently, but when we look in the future, it's difficult to keep producing the players. What do you think is I know it's different, but there will be some similarities. What do you think is the secret to the player pathway programme?
Football is changing every 5-10 years, and in this moment the countries which have more TV rights, they have the full control of the markets. Athletic Bilbao is really strong in La Liga, and because it's investing a lot of money and a lot of time in academy since 60, 70, 80 years.
Now to domestic football. Aberdeen's form has been something of a mystery this season. Jimmy Tilleen began his first campaign in charge by winning his first 13 games before the results took a major downturn. The Dons got back on track though and could get finished third in the league, but it's the Scottish Cup that offers the chance of silverware. They take on Hearts at Hampden on Saturday in the first of the Cup semis, and Tilleen expects the Tynecastle side to pose his players a stiff test.
Some players are coming from pre-season, between season, it's new teammates again, and the game's just coming so quick, but still they find a way together and give us the opportunity to be in the race now for European spot and also in the semi-finals. So I think through the challenging period, but still the team spirit and responsibility inside the club and the team has been really strong. So I'm happy for the characters, happy for the environment that we have worked so hard together. Of course we have a strong belief in ourselves, but we also know it's going to be a difficult game. It's a semi-final, it's a cup game, it's win or you're out, so it's all about this tension around the game. So we're really looking forward to it, and we know Hearts is a good team, so we have to be really sharp, we have to enjoy the expectations and then try to perform our best we can do for that day to try to get to the final.
Now, the Women's Premier League has provided some nerve-shredding endings in recent seasons, and it looks like we could have another tense run-in in store, with only 1 point separating the top 3 teams. Let's have a look at the SWPL table. The top 4 teams play one another tonight. Glasgow City and Rangers meet at Petershill. That's first versus third. Either of them could be topped by close of play this evening, but then again, it could be Hibernian, who are away to 4th place Celtic, who, along with Hearts, are 7 points behind the leading pack. Well, Rachel Corsie told the Behind the Goals podcast on BBC Sounds where she thinks it's gone wrong for reigning champion Celtic this season.
Celtic this season have conceded 21 goals already. And last season, when obviously they won the title, I think it was 19 goals they conceded in total. And it's those fine margins. And I think last year they really, defensively, that was something that probably gave them a lot of confidence, allowed them to play probably with a lot of freedom. Obviously, I know Caitlin Hayes has left and she was a big part of that, played a lot of minutes for them. And typically we find this, the team that concedes the fewest goals very often is the one that lifts the trophy. And that's sort of one of those like rules across the board.
And you can follow it all on the BBC Sports Scotland website.
You can indeed. Thanks so much, Sheila. Now, the Edinburgh Medal is one of the most prestigious awards in science. It's previously been awarded to people like Sir David Attenborough and the primate scientist Jane Goodall. This year it goes to Professor Johan Rockström. He's one of the world's top climate scientists. Earlier I asked him how it felt to win the accolade.
It's for contributions of science towards the betterment of humanity. So of course it's a particular honour to be recognised along that endeavour. But I'd also think that the timing right now is of particular importance, at least for me as an academic, in a world where science is under attack, where we see headwinds when it comes to the transformation towards a decarbonised, sustainable future. Standing up for science and standing up for global sustainability, I think, is more important than ever.
You were, of course, in Scotland during COP26, and back then you said it was the moment for action on climate change. Did we seize that moment?
Well, I must say that the climate negotiations in Glasgow was a turning point. It was a very successful climate negotiating meeting with agreements among all countries in the world on methane, on halting deforestation, on accelerating the phase out of coal, oil and gas. The UK overall, Scotland including, showing really good action on moving away from coal in particular. Have we made progress since then? The answer is unfortunately no. We are still lagging behind, global emissions are increasing, and we just saw the reports from yesterday from the Copernicus report from the European Union showing that Europe has now experienced the 21st month in a row above 1.5 degrees Celsius of global mean temperature rise caused by us humans. It's an unprecedented levels of warming, and it's costing us. We're seeing higher frequency of heat waves, lethal heat waves, floods, droughts, fires, disease patterns. So we are in an urgency situation.
So if Scotland has quite a good record in terms of climate change, what could other countries learn from what we're doing well here?
Adopting policies, science-aligned policies for reducing emissions, for protecting carbon sinks in nature, for investing in maintaining good, everything from air quality to fresh water to ecosystems in urban environments, not least, is something that benefits the planet, but also society, that it makes Scotland greater. And therefore it shows that sustainability can make the world a greater place. And I think this is something that very few countries in the world still recognize.
Finally, are you still optimistic for the future?
I wouldn't talk about optimism or pessimism at this point. I would talk about realism, and again, coming back to the point that we have no choice. The sustainability pathway is the only path that can take us towards a prosperous, equitable, modern future. The business as usual pathway is a dead end.
Professor Rockström, that's where we'll have to leave it this evening, but thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for inviting me.
Three Edinburgh brothers who set off on an attempt to row across the Pacific at the weekend are now more than 240 miles into their 9,000-mile journey. Ewan, Jamie and Lachlan McLean launched their custom-built carbon fibre vessel from Peru on Saturday night. They expect to spend more than 120 days at sea. Earlier we caught up with them and asked why they decided to take on the trek to Australia.
From Lima, we've travelled about 250 miles. We'd hoped to have gone just directly due west towards Australia, but we've had a lot of weather that's pushed us north, wind and waves, which are starting to calm down now. So I think we should start to be able to direct our course more towards Australia.
There's three of you, your brothers, your family. Are you fighting at all? Are you settling any scores, or do you all get on pretty good?
We've had one or two brief spats in the last couple of days, all relating to sleep. We've not quite figured out the best. It's kind of a combination of alarm clocks and sleep cycles and exactly how long we need between each shift.
This is always quite a nice part of the day, like coming out of the night shift, the sun comes up. Yeah, so it's good. It's not too hot. One key danger is the flying fish on the night shift. It's absolute chaos. It gets to about 6 o'clock and you're getting popped from left, right and centre by flying fish. And then yesterday we saw our first sort of dolphins. And it was, we were probably in like a 10-foot swell and these dolphins were like jumping out the top of these waves, like 15 feet into the air. Looked like great fun. So those are the two things so far.
There are definite times almost every day when you're like, I really just want to get to the end of this, especially on the night shifts. But then there's moments where you become present, and for some reason your aches and pains fade off, and I don't know. There's nowhere else you'd rather be.
I'm sure I'd rather be somewhere else, but what an adventure. We will keep up with the brothers as they continue on their journey across the Pacific. Right, it's weather time, and Joy's here for us. Joy, I don't suppose you've got the forecast for the Pacific, do you?
I don't, unfortunately, but I do have the Scottish forecast.
OK, we'll stick with that.
And let's take a look at what it's been like today, actually. For much of us, this has been the picture. We've seen grey skies. It has been rather overcast and damp, but not everyone has seen these conditions. Gorgeous skies for the likes of the far north, and in particular for the Northern Isles for all the day, with plenty of sunshine. From the south, though, heavy persistent rain has been moving in, and as we move through this evening, that is going to continue to work its way northwards. So let's take a look at the forecast in more detail for these upcoming days. We have currently that low pressure system bringing the rain moving away with us, and then tomorrow is going to be a rather showery picture. Then for the next few days, we're actually between two systems, so plenty of dry, settled conditions to come. Tomorrow morning, it's a cloudy start for much of us, quite a cool one. There is a good few showers for the likes of Dumfries and Galloway, the Borders, Argyll and the Inner Hebrides, but elsewhere it should be dry with some limited brightness across parts of the northeast and the Western Isles. And as we can see here across the far north and parts of the Northern Isles, that's the remnants of today's rain. That will linger for a time, turn more showery. The east and more southern spots staying dry. It's actually the south that will see the best of the sunshine. From the west, those showers will continue to sweep their way across the country. They could be thundery in nature, quite frequent too. A cool feel for some tomorrow. Temperatures peaking around about 12 Celsius. Those showers continuing for a time tomorrow evening before tending to fizzle out. So it's a dry night to come under clear skies, a cold one, especially across the northeast. Here we will see a touch of frost as temperatures fall below freezing. But a beautiful start to the day tomorrow in more northern spots. From the south, though, we will see cloud thickening. Quite heavy rain fringing the west coast, the chance of the odd shower elsewhere. In the west, feeling milder as winds turn more easterly, but that will give more of a bitter feel from the east. So let's take a look at the Easter weekend. We do have high pressure in charge, so that's giving largely dry, settled conditions. It's the west that enjoy the best of the sunshine, and temperatures generally average for this time of year. So dry start on Saturday, and throughout the day we'll see a mixture of variable clouds, some good sunshine, particularly towards late afternoon and actually the evening. Plenty of late sunshine to be enjoyed. The west enjoying warmer climes, 15, maybe highs of 16 Celsius, but it is going to feel quite cold on the east coast thanks to that developing easterly wind. Looking forward towards the end of next week, well, we are going to see that high pressure is in charge, giving largely settled conditions, but really it is Sunday that will see the best of the sunshine. After that, it's a mixture of clear spells, some sunshine, but also a good few showers developing at times. That's your forecast.
Joy, I was really enjoying summer last week.
Yeah, me too.
Are we going to get a second one soon, do you think?
I am hoping and praying.
Right, me too. I'll hold you to that. Okay. Thank you so much. And that's where we're going to have to leave it tonight. Amy Irons is back at the same time, so join her then if you can. In the meantime, from everyone here, enjoy the rest of your evening. Bye for now.